Nielly is a rising star in the independent music journalism space. Based in California, she creates music-related content for her supporters with a very clear three-pronged mission in mind. First, for the listeners to learn more about music. Second, for listeners to learn more about themselves. And third, for listeners to be informed and empowered citizens of the world. She accomplishes this mission through a series of different written posts on Substack and videos and clips on TikTok and YouTube. On Substack, you will find her specific Substack page, Music as Literature, separated into three sections. One, Now Playing, covers music playlists. Two, Show and Tell, details her concert experiences. And three, Music as Literature, includes a deep dive into the overlap between music and culture in a variety of ways. Nielly's writing is sharp, colored with rich historical context, witty, and deliciously entertaining. If you want to read high-quality music articles that will leave you feeling enlightened and purposeful, then you need to start following Nielly today. I had the best time discussing Nielly's budding music journalism career and look forward to reading all of the great essays and videos she has coming up. Enjoy our conversation today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the If Ever You're Listening podcast. I'm your host, Stanley C. And today we have a very special guest, music writer, music content creator, music videographer, Nielly. Welcome to the podcast, Nielly. It's great to have you.
Hi, thank you, Stanley.
So I came across Nielly's work on Substack. She writes a fantastic Substack called Music as Literature, and she dives into everything from music taste playlisting to music cultural commentary, and almost like opinion pieces, video essays, and things of that nature. So we're gonna go into that later in the podcast. In the beginning, I want to just know more about Nielly and how she even got to this place today. So, can you tell us a little bit about kind of early years, childhood even? What were you like as a kid? Were you more shy? Were you more outgoing? And when did music enter your life?
Absolutely. I might request you to refresh me on some of those sub questions
Yeah.
there. But essentially, yeah, so I'm from Central California and I am half Black, half Mexican. So as you read some of my pieces, you might see some intersectionality there in some of the cultural identities that I speak about or some of the music choices that kind of make their way onto the playlist. Like it's well informed by my upbringing. Um, Almost everybody in my family, as I reflected, has some kind of affinity and appreciation for music, but not necessarily in the way that I do. So like I have like my aunt, well, like one of my aunts is like obsessed with like Duran Duran. She'll go to concerts still like in her late 50s and bring home t-shirts to me. My uncle is the one that introduced me to a lot more like rock and indie music and took me to some of my earlier shows as a teenager. My mom is like, she's the one that kind of introduced me to stuff like John Mayer and like, I guess like mom rock kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
And then my dad introduced me to hip hop and like old school, like even when Will Smith was like when he was Fresh Prince. Like, so my musical upbringing is just full of the people that appreciate it in their own little ways.
Mhm.
As I evolved as a teenager, like I've always actually been a writer, and that's also an area that I've had to begin to accept and have been reflecting on a lot more. You'd ask probably anybody in my family, like I had been like writing poems and short stories, and I had a stint of embarrassing fan fiction at some point. But like in middle school and in high school, I was always on the school newspaper. In high school, I was actually the editor of the entertainment section for a while. Eventually graduated into doing the editor in chief position, and actually leveraged that to like I would like because my town was small enough, like I literally would find like bands managers and was like, "Hi, I'm the editor in chief of so and so newspaper. Can I interview your band?" And a lot you'd be surprised at how often they say yes. um, so as I graduated high school, like teenage hormones and just life was happening to me, and I actually developed a deep depression and decided to not pursue music journalism, even though that was a dream that I held at the time. I decided to go to college and do other things. Now I'm in my mid 30s and life is just looking different, right? Like the world looks different. My place in it, I'm starting, and it sounds crazy that like being mid 30s, like, oh, I'm finding my place in the world. But I'm feeling like I'm coming back to myself.
Yes.
And this is one of the ways that I feel like I'm coming back to myself is my Substack, like
Mm.
not denying the fact that have a skill in writing that I just haven't nurtured for a while, but a skill in writing, a love for writing, and then and clearly like having a passion for music. So it's trying to find a way to integrate them. And then what through my lived experience, um, found my ways into like college politics and legislative interests and things like that. So I've kept that with me. So as you read some of my pieces as well, you might see that I speak about politics, hopefully not in a way that's like soapboxy, but like here's the intersection of music, literature, and how it relates to your own life using the lens of like what's happening at the ballot box or at your local city council, things like that. So I try my best to localize what we're talking about so people can take action in their own communities.
No, that's fantastic. And I notice in your pieces, I even see like a call to action at the bottom where you're t asking people like learn on what to vote on, learn on what's happening right now when we're voting. So it's not only like a broadcast of what the issues are, but it's also like you're giving them actionable items as well. So I think it's very, very valuable that way. And especially now because everything feeling exceptionally political, even in the music. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's fascinating. So, okay, so you had this writing background and this journalist background, and then there was a pause, and now we're back. What were those first steps back? What did that look like? Did you jump into Substack first, or were you on other platforms first, or were you just writing for yourself in the beginning?
Oh, good question. Um, so one of the pieces that I put out, I think, so just to kind of bring some timeliness, right? So today is June 27th. I think sometime in early June, late May, I had put out a piece saying, hey, I'm on a different podcast. And that particular person, the host of that podcast, um, she's my personal coach as well. So a lot of the things that she focuses on now are specifically women, Asian American women in leadership. But when I met her, she hadn't yet focused on her demographic. Her demographic at the time was really just like women in leadership, women desiring leadership, women that just have that live and want to improve themselves, right?
Yep.
And so when I first met her, it was mostly just working on um, I use the word grief because it just felt like it. But in retrospect, she's like, I lost a relationship, right? But she's like helping me work through that. And then as I kind of cleared out that relationship garbage, it gave room for me to like actually pursue professional goals.
Yep.
And so as a group, we would sit like, okay, Sydney, like, what is it that you want out of life? And like, we would work on that for like a year. Like, I would sit in like group call meetings, like, I don't know my purpose in life. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Like, I have these gifts, I have so many interests. Like, how do I show up in the world? And so she has a separate cohort of women that desire to be business owners or already established business owners that want to take themselves to the next level. So when I first transitioned into that group with her, I still don't consider myself a business owner, but it helped me be around other people that have that either in action or trying to just take themselves higher. And so how like the Nielly or I don't have a podcast yet, but how the Nielly Substack
Mhm.
works today or was created today was she's like, like what do you want to give? And I'm like, I want people to learn about music. I want them to learn about themselves and I want them to be informed, empowered citizens of the world. And she as a marketer of her own work creates a lot of TikToks and things like that. So she's like, start small. So she had like a 30-day social media challenge. So I'm like, okay, I'm making TikToks now. I'm like, and the thing is, it felt disjointed from what I was actually trying to do.
Mm.
Like, so if you look at some of my earlier TikToks, it's like, here's some old CDs I found in my garage.
Yep.
But it was just to build the muscle of like being comfortable with being okay with being online because I desperately didn't want to be. I'm like, I just wanted to touch people through music. Like, I don't want to be a social media person. So this looks so, it was starting with the TikToks. It was starting to transition like, oh, maybe the longer form might work better. So that's where I started playing around with trying to do YouTube. Um, and I was like, well, YouTube requires some script writing. Let me just start writing some essays. So I started writing the essays, and then I was able to start thinking about the written form and transforming that into a video form. So all these things are still new to me. Like I'm still trying out what it's like to be a videographer or a TikToker or re-identify myself as a music journalist or whatever. Um, but Substack, I think I was comparing that to Medium versus just going to like WordPress and starting from there. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like Substack still had enough, both at the same time, at the same coin, both enough people to reach, but also still a nascent enough of a community to like, if I do well, maybe I can be one of those early people that helps elevate the platform. So, I mean, I didn't think too hard about where to write my pieces, but there was some thought that went
And
into it.
no, yeah, I think you're in at the perfect time. It still feels early. And in terms of a timeline, what are we talking about when that first TikTok came out?
Oh man, I'd have to look at the timestamps. I think it might have been like a fall activity or something. Because the way that she does like my coach does her cohorts, it's kind of like a year-long program. So she like it's very like this week we're working on this month we're working on that. And because she was working with a group of entrepreneurs, she's like, oh, it sounds like you all have a lot of anxiety around social media. Let's
Hmm.
put it to the test. Here we go, 30 days. And we would go into this, we had a group chat like every day. We would hold each other accountable. Like, did you post your TikTok today? Or some people were on Instagram, some people were doing other things. But it's like we committed to one app per person and we held each other accountable. We said, "Oh, I learned this week about how to do an edit on that." or like, "Oh, I felt icky about this." So I really credit honestly that community of support. Like we were all going through a new experience together and it felt less embarrassing when we're like, "Oh, not my best post this month, but it's out there."
I learned a lot about Panic at the Disco, box art. I learned a lot about your experiences with different old like Avril Lavigne CDs and JoJo CDs. So I learned I because I'm around your age, like I'm in early 30s. So a lot of that is my middle school years, early high school years. So it was very nostalgic, and I think that that's part of your appeal is that you're appealing to like these millennials or middle millennials at this point. We're getting
Right.
that, we were young, but we're starting to get a little bit older, and there's a lot of great music that is starting to whisk away to these new stars, but we're still very much connected to them emotionally. Um, for the TikToks, I mean, versus TikToks up until I see you also make YouTube videos. These are a lot more intricate. These are a lot, it looks like they have a lot more editing done. Like you said, they're scripted. Kind of talk to me about how that process has been for you. And were you always adept at creating videos and editing, or did that take time as well?
When I tell you it has taken so many hours and like I started TikTok because of the challenge.
Mm,
And I'm personally like this this past week honestly has been really difficult being a contributor on TikTok because I think I mentioned like trying to teach music history is difficult. It requires context. And the work that I try to create is trying to allow or enable, empower the listener to say, hey, I know you love this song. Let's dive into it. Like what was happening in the world when they wrote this song? Why would a person of this gender, of this age group feel so impacted by what's happening in their country or in the world to allow this song to exist? How does that song impact the listener? How does that song impact the music landscape? So like I created a TikTok that was like literally like a snippet of a 15-minute video and it's like completely devoid of the context. So like TikTok brought views to that one context devoid clip, making assumptions about how I feel about things or the world. And I personally don't like that. So well, we'll revisit that the next time. But as far as like the long form video editing goes, it's just really I'm at the experimentation stage. Like Like, does my content actually make more sense as a long form video? Does it have more reach as a long form video? So yeah, my video editing skills, I are recently developed and still working on them. I think the first 9 minute video took me, I don't know, probably literally a cumulative like 24, 40 hours. I don't know, I didn't count, but it was not without tears. It was not without people hearing me complain or like, oh, is this even the right thing to do? But it's just like, let me just, like, I committed to doing this. I said, Sydney Ellie, I'm going to do it. Um, and I did it. And it was like, keep holding myself accountable. Like, if I can't trust myself to do the things I say I'm going to do, then like my word doesn't mean much, I guess. Um, but as far as like if you want to talk technical, like what the editing
Yeah.
process is, so I currently, here's the learning's like, uh-oh. As
There,
I was playing
there,
out
there might be somebody listening to us right now who is you about 4 or 5 months ago. That's like about to start. So like how I want them to know like how much time this really requires if you're trying to do this for yourself in the
okay.
beginning. So like you could go as in depth as you want. I
Okay, well, let's see if I can do this in a way that's interesting, engaging. Um, so similar to your earlier question, like, how did you pick a platform to write on? I was trying to actually spent a lot more time trying to figure out what platform to edit on.
Hmm.
Um, Part of it was actually a big chunk of my hesitation was like, I was so early, was so early on in the process. It was like, how much money do I want to invest in this? Um, And the answer was pretty little. But you'll notice, as I think probably as I talked, that my energy around financial investment shifts a little bit as well. But earlier on, my financial and energetic investment in video editing was pretty low. So like, okay, let me find something inexpensive that's not iMovie because iMovie can't do enough, but it is included. So I ended up Oh, I tried DaVinci Resolve. That one comes up a lot as a free, high-powered tool, but I was like, ooh, I'm on like a 5, 6 year old MacBook. That's not gonna run. So let me try to downgrade a little bit.
Hmm.
I was using CapCut for
Hmm.
a while, and then they were actually, I think they're owned by ByteDance or the TikTok people. So that one ended up getting banned around the same time that the TikTok app did. And I was like, well, okay, I kind of want to vote with my dollar and my energy. Like, let me see if I can find something else. Yes, asterisk hypocrite, because I still post on TikTok.
You're good.
But so I tried CapCut for a while, that got banned. And I was like, okay, what else is still free? So I had landed on Wondershare Filmora.
Hmm.
That one's free, pretty robust. It's user friendly, as in like big, colorful buttons, dumb, kind of like CapCut was. So I kind of liked the my transition there. This is a warning to all listeners. Filmora has like at least 3 different paid tiers that you have to buy separately and don't integrate. Like you think you're paying $100 a year for like the package. $100 a year gets you an access to like one corner of this app, plus another $20 a month gets you access. Like it's garbage.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that until I hit buy. So I am waiting for my year to be up with Filmora and probably will actually learn how to use something different. But the editing on there is easy to learn in that like it's my personal experience with it right now is like they still use like industry terms for what certain features are.
Hmm.
So like as you kind of get familiar with like, oh, I want to learn how to do a fade transition, like it'll use an industry term to help you find like that transition or like audio fades and things like that. So I think I'll be proficient enough in that to be able to jump into something more advanced. Um, and it sounds like it's made for like not like low effort content, but obviously you're not going to edit an actual film in there. I think it's made for like social media people, like social media type content that I think it's engaging for a beginner.
Well, the videos look great, so I'm glad we discussed that because it does your voice is changing. You're going in and out. It's emphasizing things that you're emphasizing through making you a different color or making you larger. I think it's really well done, and I wanted to give you that kudos because I know I sense that it takes a long time to make them. So kudos, and it's hopefully it takes less than 40 hours in the future.
I wish that for me so bad.
So keep rocking on. But also it's good that people know the platform and the cost that you're using or the free cost, I should say, to use Filmora, you said, because these hidden fees, these freemium products, they're all like sharks and trying to get people. So the more people know, the better they could react to it. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about was actually your note on Substack. It's not in my questions, but I did see it and I was like, that's a great thing that Nielly brought up. And you brought it up recently. Being able to explain complex ideas in music, culture, trends, the nexus between music and culture and politics, in a way that's digestible, understandable, and nuanced. And doing that in a 15-second TikTok clip can get you a lot of hate content. I've made pieces about things like cultural appropriation in just essays, and I've gotten hate comments. So we could talk a little bit more about that. Kind of how are you processing that? I know you're referring to a TikTok you just made. So maybe how did you feel about that, and what are some of the things you're gonna how moving forward adapt to the landscape that is the internet?
Um, I will start by saying I'm grateful and thankful to myself for having learned coping mechanisms and how to like regulate myself and how to react, not from reaction necessarily, but like react from a place of calm and blank. I don't know, like a place from like calm and empathy.
Mm,
Um, so what I had posted earlier is I I blasted out the long form, the 15-minute video discussing essentially male violence and how it shows up in music and post-punk, particularly from the 1970s to the present day.
yep.
And one of the things that I'm learning about TikTok, and this is where it's like a growing edge, right, is like, your thumbnails have to be good. Your 20-second hook has to get in there to make people go past that hump to keep watching. You have to get your description tight, like all this stuff. Like, these are things I'm learning by doing. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's pretty provocative to say that Radiohead's for incels. Like, let me try that out. And so,
Love
and
it.
like the thing is, like in the long form essay, I back it up by evidence. Like, I'm not just like talking out of the side of my face. But to promote this video, I was like, okay, let me actually be more intentional this time. Like, as I'm writing my long form video, let me try to be mindful of where I could create 15-second chunks to be
Mm.
able to put those out on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. So this was the first time that I was doing this with intention. So the very first clip is like calling, well, I mean, Tom York said some pretty foul things in 1995. So that's what I was calling out. I'll leave it at that. You can go watch my TikTok.
Yeah, please watch it. Link in the description. Link in the description.
um, and as for some reason, I think my first reaction was kind of like shock. Like, I didn't realize for whatever mental gap that I had that like I actually created a rage bait piece.
Mm,
So my overall essay is about like if a person actually sits from beginning to end and either reads or watches my essay, I hope what they receive from me is that I actually very deeply care about men and their well-being.
yep.
And it takes a community and it takes a society to support men and their well-being because it also impacts women. Like, my safety is reliant on a man having the resources he needs to take care of himself and his family. The 15-second TikTok is completely detached from that concept. And so people are in my comments just like, oh, like, I don't know. Just imagine all the things foul men say to women. Like, they're there. So I'm sitting there like, let me just turn off all my notifications. Let me go sit and breathe for a bit.
Mhm.
And let me come back to this in a place. So ultimately, I think for the most part, a lot of my responses to that were, this is an introduction to a long form piece talking about male violence. I invite you to go watch the remainder of the piece. Um, so now I'm speaking about it from a calmer place where like, okay, the next time I post a promotion video, let me actually try to place myself in a different position. Like, would this be considered rage bait instead of just clickbait? If
Mm,
my mission is to invite people to explore something so that they can become more informed citizens, does me posting something that is perceived as rage bait support that mission? And I'll try again and do better next time. Um, I don't think, we'll see. I currently don't think that TikTok will be the place for my content
mhm.
in the long term because it disallows a full picture of what I'm actually trying to speak about and educate people on. And if I were to watch my own content as a casual TikToker, like I don't consume TikTok anymore, which has been really nice for my mental health as a quick aside. I'm not a consumer anymore. But if I were to empathize with a person watching TikTok and just happens to scroll, like it's actually pretty improbable that they're gonna watch my 15-second TikTok and then go onto my page and then find the link in bio and then go to like that's a handful of steps. So if I find that me making clickbait or rage bait does not translate to actually people watching or reading my long form content, I'm not sure that TikTok is the place for me. But we'll find out.
Well, I hope that you continue to keep dropping good vid like great. I thought it was I disclaimer, I reposted the video myself on Substack because I enjoyed it when I first saw Nielly post it because I was like, finally we get because usually people who post about like manosphere, men stuff is men, and it's very pro men, which they're trying to find some light, but getting that criticism, getting that and connecting it to music, I found it really riveting and accurate in a lot of places. And I'm sorry that that was your comment section afterwards. That I didn't check TikTok, and so I should have seen what that was like. But I'm not surprised, is what I'm saying. The hopefully maybe next time post it on Substack, and because we love videos on there. But I don't think you could post like those 15 seconds. We maybe be able to talk offline about how to improve that. But I think there's a potential for you with the videos on Substack using that to get your stuff out there as well.
I appreciate that. Something to explore.
Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about was playlisting and your Now Playing series. So
Sure.
these are great because I think when people hear about music journalists, quote unquote, or music writers, they think about they probably think about album reviews first, but the second thing they probably think about is playlisting and writing about songs listed out. So talk to me about how do you pick the songs, and you write like very like short but kind of funny and witty sentences about the songs, and they're usually thematic in some way, shape, or form. But I'll let you describe kind of how did you come up with the concept, the name, and how do you pick the songs for your playlist?
All right. Now playing is called thus because I was very early on in my process. I'm like, what's the closest thing that kind of makes sense that might be kind of cute? And I think at this point I'm so deep in it, I might keep it, but I wasn't emotionally attached to that that series title when I first started.
Hmm.
Um, but how I pick the songs, I think it's actually evolved a little bit from when I started. From when I started, I think because I had like 5 followers and half of them were people that I personally knew. I was just like, oh, like here's literally what I'm listening to this weekend. It didn't matter what the year was. It's just like enjoy learning about my music taste. But in the last couple of months, I actually have been more focused on music that's been released within the last week or two within the date that I post. And the way that I find it is I'm currently a subscriber to both Spotify and Apple Music, but I prefer to discover on Apple Music because the algorithm is less algorithmic than Spotify. It feels like the discovery is a lot more natural and to the way that I used to just actually discover as a teenager. Like as a teenager, like speaking of Panic at the Disco, like I was obsessed with Panic at the Disco. I would literally go into LimeWire or Apple Music and just type in the word panic. And like, whoa, what comes up? Oh,
Mhm.
there's a lyric that has a song Panic in it. Let me try that out. Or like, oh, there's another band called, I don't even remember at this point, but like Panic Freak. Like let's see what kind of music they make. And I still kind of do that. Like, oh, here's a keyword of the day. Let me just see what pops up. So I'm completely genre agnostic. I love all things that make noise, or all genres that like, you could throw a trumpet at me, some weird organ from the medieval times. Don't care. I will listen to it. Um, and so as I was getting, so that's how I discover. How I pick is kind of just timeliness. And then what actually happens is I try to keep my playlist to like 45 minutes, maybe like max 90. The
Mm.
only time I've ever really gone over that is if I didn't create a playlist in the preceding like week or two. So I try to like stack up a little bit. But what happens is I'll create the playlist, and as I'm writing about the songs and why I chose them or what I like about it or what I'm inviting the listener to hear for themselves. By the end of that like hour listening session, I'm like, oh, there kind of was a theme here about like yeah, just basically that's it. Like, oh, there's kind of a theme here.
Mm.
And I learn about myself in that moment as well.
Mm.
Um, because in the course of a week, like lots of music is released, but there's only so many songs that actually caught my ear or made me go back and listen to it twice. And as a general rule, if I don't like listening to the song, I'm not putting it on the playlist. There will be a song every so often that I'll put on there that I don't like, and I think I'll explicitly say like, not a fan, but I think you might like this because this part was interesting. um, but yeah, I learn about myself in that way because I'm listening to music organically. Like this is what caught my ear. And so as I start grouping them together, like, oh, it's kind of a reflection of what was going on for me that particular week. So in that regard, it's kind of like you're not reading my diary, or I'm not reading or writing it really kind of like a journal entry or whatever. But for me, it does kind of feel like that.
No, that's really really fascinating, and that part where you talked about you're learning more about yourself as you're writing the playlist resonates with me. I noticed that when I do my end of year pieces, I'm learning about like what was my life like in the past year because that the songs actually you're resonating with the songs because the songs are speaking to something in you that you're going through at the time. And that took me a long time to get to. So that's really cool that you're noticing that at this stage, and I think you're gonna be huge eventually because there's so many cool things that you're doing. Like that's what also fascinates me about you. You're doing like five different things, and you don't see that with a lot of writers. They kind of like the one thing and they keep doing the one thing, and then maybe over time they do other things. But you're like out the gate hitting us with playlists, opinion pieces, video essays, and we're gonna get into show and tell next. Like all these layers, which kind of shows your creativity as well as how you're thinking about music in a more full picture way. Let's get to show and tell. So, show and tell is a series also on your Substack where you're writing about your firsthand experiences at concerts. So, talk to me a little bit about how that came about because it is a unique way to write about concerts, and maybe your methodology. And my favorite part, your succinct emoji ranking system. So, I had to talk about how did we get to the ranking and how do you decide which emojis to use?
Sure. So kind of coming back to that female empowerment cohort, right? Um, one of the questions posed to me was like, Sydney, like, do you realize that you go to a lot more live music than probably the average person does? And I was like, oh, I guess. Do you realize that you have such a passion for, like she's just asking inquiring questions about me to help me realize. I guess hearing you reflect it back at me too, it's like, oh crap, you're right. I am kind of doing a lot. But some days it doesn't feel like a lot. Some days, most days, it actually feels like I'm painting or like weaving something.
Hmm.
Like it's all a part of the service that I'm trying to provide. Um, Show and tell came about because of that question that was posed by my coach, like to try writing about it. And she's also coming at it from the business coach perspective, not just the the people coach perspective, right? She's like, I mean, think about, she's literally, I think was like, think about you going to Coachella one year. Like, do you know how many articles that is? And even one concert has like at one opener, maybe two openers, and then the headliner. Like, if you're really smart about it, that's three separate articles. So she's thinking about it as content creation, like weekly schedules, like really like marketing business mind advice. At the time, I was just like, ugh, like again, I was just getting started. I'm like that sounds like a lot of content. I don't know if I can do all that. Um, and a question that am still asking myself, you might hear me ask a lot, is like, is this thing that I'm creating actually in service of what I keep telling myself and telling my readers that I want to do, which
Mm.
is reflect on the music that you love, learn about why it was created, learn about yourself, become empowered. Like, right? So sometimes just like, oh, just show and tell
Yeah.
um, aid in that vision.
Mm.
And I think it can and does because a lot of concert reflections that I consume anyway, like if you go like the Rolling Stone model, for example, it's really kind of just like a timestamp review, really. It's like so and so came on the stage at this time, they sang this song, crowd went wild. Here's the link to their latest album. Enjoy. I
Scream now.
and like this is coming from a person like still reads Rolling Stone. Like for me, like that would be like, I've made it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, same, same.
Like I made it. So it's not like a criticism other than just that's what it is.
Mm.
Um, and so for me, when I write show and tell, it's like I want the reader to understand a couple of things about me or the artist. Like, why did I decide to show up that day? What am I learning about the people that are around me? Like, do I learn anything about an age group or a genre or sometimes myself about that day just by being here? Um, and so I think where show and tell has evolved is so a piece that I wrote was about actually they're called Dreamer Isioma. And sometimes depending on how they show up online, I can't tell if Dreamer Isioma is the name of the individual performer or if that's the moniker of the group,
Yeah.
right? Kind of like Sade, right?
Yeah.
Sade actually is kind of like a hybrid both thing.
Yep.
Anywho, so I read a piece on Dreamer Isioma. And I showed up to the show because I'm like, I heard like their opening track to their latest album, like immediately, I was like, I need to go see this with my own eyeballs because it just felt raw and loud and imperfect and youthful and just different. And I was like, I need to see this. So I show up and I learned that like a lot of the people that showed up to that band were literally probably like 20 years old. They dress differently than me, they look differently than me. And I live in LA, so like, and the particular venue that we were at was in Silver Lake, Los Angeles. So if any of you out there have ever heard of Silver Lake, it's probably because it's like the LA equivalent of like Portlandia.
Yeah.
Like it has a reputation, right? So I go to this place and kind of like see these younger people really deeply engaged and involved. Like not only do they like it's just funny on one level because like, oh man, like fashion has changed a lot since I used to come to shows. Like, but like what I left the show with is like the venue was not packed, but the people that showed up were like making direct eye contact. You could tell that they were moved. They were singing along. They were actually dancing. Um, they felt it was clear that they felt like they were in a safe space to express themselves however they needed to. And then by learning and experiencing that, you back up, and this is where like the music is literature part comes in, or like my service to this mission, right? How that comes in is like outside of those walls, there's a government that told them that trans people can't exist. Outside of those walls, there's a government that said that they shouldn't have rights, that they shouldn't marry, that they're being told that they don't have a right to be here. So watching them in this space where like, oh, like I can express myself if I feel good, I can see myself reflected. That's powerful. And I was moved by that. And so I kind of take that same energy when I watch all kinds of shows. It's like, cool, I'm receiving like I'm receiving content, you know. But like how does it move me? How does it move the people around me? Like how is this show, like, when does this show up in the context of what's happening outside of that venue? And as far as the emojis go,
Yeah.
I don't rate things on my blog. I do have an app that I use. There's like a letterboxed app called Music Board, and it's just for
Okay.
albums.
Oh yeah.
So if I listen to a complete album from beginning to end, that's when I'll provide a rating to it. And for me, it's more of like generalized information for me that I have made public. But like, unless it's something completely just that should not have been made, in my personal opinion, everything kind of gets a three or higher, you know? But for the sake of the blog, I wanted people to move away from a rating or ranking system and try to tap in from the very beginning how I felt about being there. So
Mhm.
like the mic check emoji ranking is really just like, did it sound good? Did it feel like it moved people? Did I feel like I transcended time and space? Um, and then the vibe check is a combination of like the performance and people's reaction to the performance. So like on one hand, it's about musicality, and on the other hand, it's about just the community that's being built in a space, or um, did the artist feel like they wanted, like, did I feel like they actually wanted to be there? Like, uh, that happens a lot. So that's the behind the scenes of that emoji rating.
Fantastic. I mean, I've never seen anything like that for music journalists writing about concerts that they've experienced. I've even the way you're describe the for the listener, read her show and tell series because she is walking you through a much more broader but at the same time, a lot more in-depth review of the show because she's taking you from how the impetus to even listening to the artist to the actual experience to what's going on around her, not just on the stage, but like the people. So usually you're just reading about what's going on stage and the person, it could be anybody, but you feel her presence, you feel the person next to her, and you feel the stage, and you feel what's going on in her head. So I'm a big fan of that series, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing there. So keep doing those. Keep going the shows. It's the summertime. Hopefully you have some shows coming up that you're going to.
I do. I think I have to look at my calendar. I mean, this is how much I love shows is it'll happen spontaneously. So here's a quick story that I think emphasizes me and what you can get on the blog is um this past January I went on a solo trip to Ireland. Beautiful. I recommend everybody do it. And one of the nights that I had gone there, I was like, I literally had the night before I had just recovered from food poisoning. So I had lost an entire day of vacation. And I'm like, I need to go watch some jams. Like, I just need to like, do something I love here because I felt like complete the day before. And so I found an open mic night. There's this venue in Dublin called Whelan's.
Hmm.
And they, from like again, kind of like how it feels, like the energy that I received at Whelan's is like they support the small artists. They really empower artists to just be brave and try it out. And so I happened to show up on a night that they had an open mic night. And I'm like, what better way to discover new music than discover a no-name somebody in Dublin, Ireland in January?
Love that.
So watching the show, and there's an artist, his name is P.O. Hartnett. There's an artist that he played, and I was like, this guy is going places. Like, he seems like well rehearsed and practiced and kind. And he's kind of got like this like Ed Sheeran-esque kind of quality to it, but there's something deeper and more there.
Mm.
And like, mind you, Monday, Dublin, I think it was probably literally 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit on, you know what I mean? Like it's all the things, okay? So there's nobody, I say all that to say there's not very many people in this venue outside the people that are like there to perform.
Mhm.
So after the whole open mic night is over, I approach him like, hey, I really loved your stuff. Can I follow you on Instagram? Um, we actually really made a connection. And he said, oh, I have some friends in LA. I'll let you know when I come by. And he actually did. He came, he's in America. He'll be here for like a week or a month or two. We met up the other day for dinner and we went to another open mic night, discovered some more music.
Wow.
So even though it wasn't like on my calendar, it was like that was something that like happened organically. And I hope to feature him on the page pretty soon. But that's how deeply I engage with like my music community and just like live music. Like I think it's really brave. Like I don't perform. I'm not a performer. And so I deeply appreciate the people like, hey, I wrote something, let me share it. Like, how freaking cool is that?
So freaking
like,
cool. So freaking cool. That's awesome. I'm so glad you told that story because the type of person that would go to another country by themselves to listen to music after they're sick, but have such a passion for music and then make you reached out, you like introduced yourself first, then to introduce put themselves out there is the type of person that deserves that type of respect back and that type of that feedback back. So I'm glad that energy was reciprocated, and it's also like a call to action. People introduce yourselves to others at concerts. The amount of like people I've met at concerts and friends that I've connected with, artists, it is remarkable, and you don't know unless you try, even if it's like weird at first. You'll be amazed because a lot of people actually go to concerts by themselves, and it's not that obvious until you start talking to people, and then I start noticing, oh, you came by yourself, you came by yourself. So that's awesome. And shout out open mic nights in Wheeland at Wheeland. Okay, so that concludes my we're I'm very cautious of time right now. That concludes my Nielly specific questions. Now I have my if ever you're listening questions. So these are questions I
okay.
ask all the guests that come on the show. And you answered the first one already, so I may have to alter some of these in real time.
All
Gonna be
right.
fun.
I
No, but
believe
it's
you can
good.
do it.
We do. We're gonna make it work because you're fascinating me right now, and I know a lot of music writers on Substack, but I didn't know you as of maybe like 4 months ago. So you're still like I don't know. There's still a lot. Now I know a lot more, but like there's still even from today there's still a lot of question marks, which is great. The first one is about what was the first album that you fell in love with and why did it mean something to you?
Oh, I should have prepared for this one. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not confident I can answer that specific question, but I might get to something interesting for you by answering a similar and different one.
No problem.
um, the first CD that I bought with my money
Oh yeah.
was Baby One More Time, Britney Spears.
Nice.
The first album I had asked for Christmas and received Nickelback, Silver Side Up, or something like that. Like,
What are you
so
talking
the
about?
duality of man, you know. um, but real album that like really moved me.
I go to high school when I think of this question, like
Yeah.
because if I'm really young, it's hard to get it. Maybe middle school, there's some albums that lit me up, and I was like, I have to. I bought like Neo's in my words. I was like, and Daddy Yankee the albums out. Those were like they.
Eh,
2006 was a great year.
right? It was time to party.
What time to party?
Um, if I'm being honest, like the only thing that keeps interrupting my thought is probably OK Computer by Radiohead. And that's probably why, honestly, that I reacted so viscerally to the stuff online because like I'm coming into this place as a listener that deeply enjoys this catalog. And because I deeply enjoy this catalog and it has shaped a lot of my music listening and history and perception of self, that I feel like I've actually earned a right to criticize it a little bit or a lot of bit, who knows. um, but Radiohead has come into my life because I don't know if I hope everybody has the gift of like that cool funkle. Like, I have a lot of cool funkles, but I have one specifically, my mom's brother, who he's 10 years older than me, but he's 10 years younger than my mom. So as far as like the way that it fits in our family dynamic is like he might as well have been my older brother. So he would, I don't know if it was OK Computer, it might have been Hail to the Thief that I have this memory for. Or Hail, Also a thief, right? Um, Anywho, like the day that the album had come out, like he took me to like the record shop and then he took me to his friend's house where we like sat and listened to it together. Like I don't know if he realizes the impact that like that particular memory had on probably everything that's happening and that I'm creating right now, but like that's probably where excuse me, I think that's probably where Radiohead comes into like my music story. And it probably could have been any other band for all I know, but that's that's why there is that attachment to it.
And it also is why it stings a little bit more versus if you were just writing about the 1975 or like a band you didn't care about that much and people got mad at you for writing about the 1975 because now I'm kind of getting maybe what the criticism was. They're maybe assuming you don't listen to Radiohead, you're a girl, nah, 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 nah. Girls don't like it. So now because I still don't know what the actual comments were, but now that's infuriating. That's actually nonsense, but the
I
internet,
agree.
the internet is complete nonsense sometimes, which is why I always want to talk to people like you who the amount of okay, kind of backtrack a little bit. Maybe this is a good like ending question, comment, statement. The internet is such a vastly big place. It's unbelievably huge. It's getting only getting more complex with AI and all these things. The amount of goodness and knowledge and information from a human perspective that you're putting out there, connected to things that people are already interested in, whether that's albums or songs or music, is so valuable to anybody who's going on the internet. And I hopefully you'll feel this over time. And I've definitely felt this and didn't intend for this to happen, but you're going to put out so much content. Somebody from Australia or New Zealand or or South Africa is going to reach out to you and go like, this article meant so much to me. This video meant so much to me. And that's the point of kind of the internet. It should be like a connector to people, the humans from around the world about things that they find valuable and that they fall in love with. So I hope that the people that uh the audience that you're intending your content for, eventually a large number of them find you, and vice versa, and you find them because that's the whole point. It's you're trying to make this for other people like you. And it happened to me. That's how I found your stuff. 'Cause I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't remember what actually the first article I found of yours that I was like, what, who the heck is that? But maybe I'll find it and I'll email it because that would be kind of a cool story. But
Be
that,
kind.
I hope that makes sense. Okay, the next one is about hmm, it's about articles. So what article of yours or video at this point, I know it's still early, do you
Yeah.
find to be the most underrated or underappreciated and why?
Hmm. I'm debating between two pieces. I'm debating between my Sabrina Carpenter piece and a piece I had written about mariachi. And
Hmm.
the reason I'm debating between the two is because I think it's speaking to the different ways I think people can engage with my work. So with the Sabrina Carpenter piece, it's literally about one song on her last album, Don't Smile. It is the finale of the original release. It's not the finale of the deluxe edition. But I really dove deep into like I think if anything that encapsulates like what I talk about being my mission, right? Like here's a song that it wasn't her single, so like probably half, maybe not even half of Sabrina's listeners have ever even heard that one song, to be transparent. But like I took a song from a popular artist and I dove deep into that writer's upbringing, to the songwriters that contributed to making that song, to their, I don't know if that went so far as diving into the songwriters' upbringing, but really going deep into their catalog to learn about like, how did that group of people make this one song? Because Don't Smile specifically is actually pretty R&B forward.
Yep.
It's pop sanitized a little bit, but there's if you listen critically, like I ask you and invite you to, you'll hear a lot of music history in there that as you learn more about her and her team, like, oh, there's of course that song was made. Like, of course, like she's from Philadelphia. Like she's been working with these people that also worked with so and so. Like it's a reflection of this team's lived experience. And so that's why I think that's an underrated piece is because it dives into how I can present something that way. And then the mariachi piece, I invite your listeners to read because I think it's kind of like funny, but it also uh, highlights my cultural upbringing in a way that I hope provides some kind of understanding of like why I feel like I'm the right person to share this with you.
Mhm.
So that particular piece is exploring the history of mariachi, but how people have frankly kind of bastardized it over the course of time. And how like I'm happy that people love and appreciate the sound that mariachi makes, but I would really ask people to respect its origins. And that's kind of all I want readers and listeners to do generally, though, right? Is I'm maybe some days I'm not really asking you to change your opinion, but I want your opinion to be informed. And I hope that I provide the resources for that.
Well, I think you're doing it, and I just want to say keep doing it because you're doing a great job, and it's resonating with the people it needs to resonate with more than those who it won't resonate with. So keep doing what you're doing. You're fantastic, and please, 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 listeners, find Nielly on Substack Music as literature. And Nielly, like, please let us know where else they could find you on the interwebs, as they say.
Well, knowing that I'm experimenting with it all, my primary digital home is on Substack. So look up Nielly Listens or Music as Literature. And in trying to spread the word, you can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok, all under the Nielly Listens moniker.
Keep listening, guys. Thank you so much, Niali. You're fantastic. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.